United Nations is redoubling its efforts to combat domestic violence increased during the pandemic. The UN says millions of women are living in fear under lockdown conditions. CGTN's Roee Ruttenberg spoke with the UN's Anita Bhatia.
The very conditions of the pandemic, i.e. forced restrictions on movement, the inability to leave the home, these are conditions that are actually tailor-made for abusers. These are dream circumstances for abusers because they have unfettered control over their victims. So we have seen in a range of countries that governments have actually had to take some very specific policy measures to address this shadow pandemic of domestic violence. So for example, in France, the government had to rent 20,000 hotel rooms. They had to create a system whereby women could go to pharmacies and actually seek help through using of a code word whereby they could signal that they were being abused at home. We have seen the Prime Minister of Australia come out and talk about the fact that there had been a huge spike in domestic violence. We know that in some countries, the number of women who were seeking help online increased dramatically. And UN Women, which is very well connected to women's rights organizations on the ground, has been hearing from all of our civil society partners that there has been a very big jump in the number of women who are calling organizations and seeking help. So we are asking governments to make sure that they are declaring shelters as essential services, that these services are kept open and made available even during the pandemic, that police forces are sensitized to the need to respond to cries for help, and that there is availability of public infrastructure for victims of domestic violence. It's a big problem.
COVID-19 has pretty much brought the world to a standstill for the last 6 months. It comes at a time when in recent years we've seen several states turn towards nationalist trends, and that's had an effect on migration as well. How has that impacted women, many of them caring for the children who are considering making these dangerous journeys?
I mean, there have been some really horrifying stories of women being separated from their children when they are fleeing, or being forced to go back. We know that many women who are domestic workers have faced discrimination, both from the country where they were working, as well as inability to go back to the countries that they came from. So the issues that existed in migration before have been exacerbated by the closing of borders and the refusal of many countries to act humanely towards migrants within their populations. This is something that the UN is also paying attention to, and it is something that we need to keep reminding ourselves about in the sense of needing to take action to make sure that the human rights of these populations are not forgotten while we are dealing with other fallout from the pandemic.